So it's an honor to be with you today.
Thank you.
It was a surprise for me because I was not I have asked for, but I was not sure to have the interview. The first question I have to you is: there is a storm yesterday.
Yes.
Is it a sign for you?
Yes. I was thinking, this always happens to me. The storms follow me around the world, and I brought one to France, and maybe it'll be big. And in my novels, there are at least 4 or 5 big floods as part of the plot, maybe more. People say there's going to be, literary dissertations written about floods in Kim Stanley Robinson's books. So, thank you. So it was pretty great. And hopefully, I say that hoping there wasn't too much damage, hopefully nobody got killed, but it did make me laugh. That's a big wind. If it got to 180 kilometers an hour, that's a dangerous wind. Hopefully, it wasn't that bad, was it?
It was not so bad that it has been anticipated, but
Good.
there is some issue in some area in France. And in your book, the Ministry of Future, one of the first acts we see is in India. This big heat worm. And do you fear about this kind of stuff in the next years?
Oh yes, it's terrifying. The scientific information that the human body cannot survive a high temperature humidity combination is relatively new. The first paper was from 2010. You would think this would have been noticed before, but in fact the paper in 2010 was a red flag. Wet bulb 35, which is an index of heat and humidity, humans can't survive it without air conditioning. But air conditioning will fail if the grid fails, if electricity fails. And then you could be in a room with a fan on or fanning yourself and no clothes on, you would still die within hours. So as the medical community took in this news and got it into the climate community, it took a while. I ran into the information about 2017. Reading the papers, I was thinking, these eco-modernists, these adaptationists who are saying humans are so adaptable, humans are so clever, why worry about climate change? So say the temperature goes up 4 degrees, average temperature Celsius, who cares? We're adaptable creatures, but we're not. At wet bulb 35, we die. Very quickly, there's going to be heat spells around this planet where people will die if the grid goes down. It does not take a science fiction writer. This is an easy call to make. It's been made by the scientists. And so all those eco-modernists who were, they were from philosophy departments or economics departments or some kind of design people. They weren't scientists. They weren't doctors. And they were wrong. And indeed, since Ministry for the Future has come out, they have stopped talking about, we can adapt to anything. It just stuffed that argument because it's a real danger. These heat spells keep getting worse and worse. 2023 was the hottest year by such a big margin that the scientists are simply in shock right now. September and the whole year, this summer, if you look at the graphs, it's probably because China's cleaned up their coal plants, and the shipping industry has cleaned up their diesel fuel that runs container ships. There's less particulates in the air. The air is clearer. That's a good thing, but it's hotter. So even the good things we do now can heat ourselves up. So this is why I wrote the book. Absolutely, we're in danger right now.
And the point is that it's in India, so big countries with many people, and finally few how to say, money to save, and
not a good electrical grid, lots of people, but also in the tropics. So this is, I don't know the figures, there's something like 3 billion people out of the 8 billion people, maybe even half of humans live in areas that can get that hot. And it's not just the tropics, it's wherever humidity and heat combine. So the American Midwest, one of the hottest wet bulb temperatures ever recorded was right outside Chicago. So the American Southeast and the American Midwest, they are susceptible to these heat events. It's a stronger grid. There is more resilience. It's a more robust infrastructure. There won't be as many deaths as in poor, crowded countries without a good electrical grid. But Pakistan or the Middle East, India, Indonesia, the northern part of South America, these countries are in terrible trouble, and many of them are the least well off financially and with infrastructure and engineering to be able to handle it. So it's a global emergency, but there are some places that are in more trouble than others.
And when you create on the book the Ministry of Future, we see Mary that is a political scientific. She's in between,
yeah.
And she has really difficulties to succeed, to make the difference. And is it a problem today that the politics are not able to take the lead on this subject?
Yes, I think so. I've been learning a lot since I wrote that book, and I think I can articulate it better now. The nation-state system, where each nation has sovereign power over its own borders and its own country, is poorly designed for a global biosphere emergency. And capitalism is poorly designed as an economic system to pay us to do the right things. So the system that we exist in now is very poorly matched to the problem. So the international bodies, they're weak, they are newborn, but they represent a possibility. All the nation states can kick it up to the next level and say, well, we can't get a carbon tax passed, like in France, like in Switzerland, like in America. You can't get a carbon tax passed. Maybe the World Trade Organization should impose a carbon tax on all trade. So the international level, where you're a member state rather than a nation state. So the European Union is very important as a model for political organization, where the nation states give up a little sovereignty to the bigger body, the international body, that is where they're a member state of something bigger. So the Paris Agreement, very important. The International Maritime Organization, the World Trade Organization, the OECD, all of these international organizations, including the UN as kind of an umbrella. And my Ministry for the Future is just a UN agency, really, because it comes through the Paris Agreement, which is also UN organized. That at the international level, the nation states are praying that what they can't get done, they can get done by the international level. And so this is a prayer. When you talk to people working for the international agencies, it's just like going to India and talking to people in India. They say, Stan, you have us as the solution. We're completely screwed up here. I go to, Geneva and to the international agencies. They say, Stan, you're talking about the ministry fixing it. We are like the drivers of golf carts for the star golfers. We have no power to do what you're talking about us doing. So, it's a worry. It's a little utopian. It's a little bit suggesting what has to happen is international. And so therefore international agencies are more important than they used to be. And something like the European Union, European Union, Brussels, the whole complex of the European Union as a, what would you even call it, a government of the European Union. The Union government has been leading the climate fight in really important ways, trying to make laws that have some teeth to them. Very interesting to see. It's one of the few signs that we could do it. And
nevertheless, we have Frank at the opposite that has been a volunteer in India, and we have Kali children. I don't know if it's the same term in US. There is a terrorism to accelerate the movement. Do you think that we will need at a time to use this way of working?
Well, I hope not, because I don't think that works. Terrorism it always has the blowback, the resistance, the hatred of terrorism, the pain it creates. I don't think it works as a political strategy. Maybe we're seeing that in Israel and Gaza right now. But I wanted to make this book feel realistic, so that when you read it, all the good things that happen are immediately followed by bad things. And there were 3 important deaths in the book. I only understood this later. I didn't understand while I was writing it. But later, I've had to look at this book for 3 years now. I don't usually look back. 1 death by accident, 1 death by murder, 1 death by disease. Well, it must have been a plan subconsciously. And then all the bad things that happen in the book, including the terrorism. The terrorists think they're doing the right thing. The children of Kali. Oh, all of my village was killed. I'm going to get revenge, and I'm going to kill all the oil executives, and it's working like a charm. Well, they're probably wrong. The book never says, oh, because of the terrorism, the world got better. The world is just described as including all kinds of stuff. Good, bad, indifferent, ugly. I wanted to portray a mess that still came to a pretty good ending, to make people believe in it. So it didn't just, because I'm a utopian writer. Oh, another utopia, who cares? But I wanted this to be more like a utopia you could believe in. So it had to include terrorism, bad stuff, even the wars. There's all kinds of stuff in that book I didn't realize I had even written, because it was just incidental. Oh, let's make the book feel historical and realistic. Therefore, it'll become a Republic of Arabia, or therefore there will be a Kurdistan, which there should be a Kurdistan. And so all these things are like, or Hong Kong will be, change all of China rather than China changing Hong Kong, which is looking pretty wrong right now, but you never know. In any case, the book is a mess, and terrorism is part of the mess.
And when you say many times that it's an utopia and so on, but we have many facts that you shared with us about economics theory, about different practice and so on, that say we have already all the solution to solve the problem.
We do, but you would have to believe in a kind of a eco-socialist. You would have to have a leftist solution where, at the very minimum, government has to take over finance and say, you work for us, and we're going to spend money on green projects, and you're going to make that work financially. You work for us. It's like in World War II. And so it's Keynes. It's Keynesianism. In the Depression of World War II, Keynes went to the British government, and he went to FDR in America and said, you simply have to seize the economy and make it do what you want. You're democratically elected, and so you can tell your populace, we need to do these things in order to survive. When bombs are falling on you, it was an easy case to make. So climate change, it's not as easy. But now we're in climate change. The storms, the disasters, the floods, the droughts, they're all happening. So next week I get to meet Thomas Piketty. And so he should be Minister of Finance, for the world.
We hope so.
Yeah. So I don't know what I'm going to ask him. How's it going in terms of influencing the world? I know he's got many postdocs and young professors that were taught by him. I know he's been hugely influential in the world, and I'm happy to meet him. But I'm wondering how he feels about it. But that's the kind of solutions we need.
And when you discuss about all the subjects, we discuss many of ecological aspect and planet, but you discuss too about social, because there is this new network, social network with Mikey.
Yeah, that's right. I have stayed off social media. This is the great advantage of being an old artist, is I can just say no. And I have no website, no blog, no accounts at all, no Instagram. There's a fake Instagram we just got taken off. I can say this, that's my social media, and just be a novelist. It's beautiful. So I don't know much about social media, and I don't even believe in it, because if you spend all your time in the physical world, it's like, people are all staring at their phones, they're staring into their laptops. It's like watching TV. I mean, how important can it be? But it is important, obviously. If everybody's doing it, then they're caught up in a social world that is digital and mediated and is international, the opportunities are there to make it a big commons. So again, it's the leftist solution. You just nationalize that stuff. There shouldn't be private companies that are using you as money-making devices. You should own them. So it's simply socialism all over again. The people should own the means of production. Yeah, it's simple. And now, amongst the means of production is digital media, social media. Those are, how could you call it, systems terms. They're like, I don't know, they're like the wiring system, or almost like electricity itself. They connect our brains. So we should all own that. We should own that collectively, rather than private companies. It's very stupid. The time that we're in is like 1890. The Gilded Age has come back. The wealth disparity. I mean, you know all this, so I don't have to describe it. But it is a little ridiculous to treat it as natural. And here I think this term, capitalist realism, that everybody's thinking, oh, this is just natural, when actually it's artificial, and it's a power relation, and it could be different. This is where you've got to come in with utopia and talk about, oh, it could be different. And so it's utopia is a kind of leftism, and leftism is a kind of utopian thinking. Since it could be different, it should be different, because it's stupid now. There should be no billionaires. Every billionaire is a policy failure. This is a great phrase out of the American left. Yeah.
And your novel has a huge impact in the world, because you have many good feedbacks, and you are all around the world. And what is your feeling in terms of writers to see that your book is seen by scientists, politics, economics as a good idea, as an idea maker?
Well, but it's nice. It shows the novel still can influence people, and I love that because I'm a novelist. So it's beautiful fact about novels that I've written a lot of novels, but this one it has been different. The reaction to it has been different, like by 2 magnitudes, and in the all across the world, rather than the people that read novels or read science fiction. So that's been amazing. But I'm just a reporter. I brought together all the stories and put together a kind of a novel as a plan for how we could get through this century okay. That's not a story that we're hearing very much. So it fills an empty ecological niche in our imaginary. We need this story. It doesn't exist. Other writers are like, oh, we're doomed, dystopia, post-apocalypse, zombies chasing you down. All that is an indulgence. That's capitalist realism. It's the feeling of climate dread, young people feeling doomed. That's because they're thinking we can't possibly escape this system. Well, the system's fragile, it's falling apart. And the feeling that the system is eternal and can't be changed is a false feeling, is a hallucination. Like one of these ChatGPT-3 hallucinations. Everybody's going, oh my God, we can't change the system. Meanwhile, the system's changing daily. And what I've learned in the last 3 years is at the level of government, at the level of business, and at the level of the scientists, there's lots of people trying to change fast. There's green industry. It's not just greenwashing. It's actual money being invested in doing green things. That's happening, which is very encouraging, because as an old leftist American, I don't believe in business. I think it should all be government. But we're in a world of business, and business would like to keep making money and would like to have the world not fall apart. So there's that. There's governments that are intent to do their best. Almost all governments are ministries for the future, in effect. They're maybe not the fossil fuels industry, maybe not the politicians that are bought by the fossil fuel industry. And so there's a big caveat in that not all governments are trying to do the right thing because they've been bought by the fossil fuel industry. And so we're existing, it's called democracy, but it's actually oligarchy. So the oligarchs buy the representatives, and the democratic representatives vote for the oligarchs rather than for the people and for the future. This is obvious. I'm not teaching anybody when I say this. I'm just expressing what we all know. So, but what I've learned is that if it's sort of like they call it running the table in pool. Everything has to go right, but if everything went right, we would do very well. And since that's not going to happen, there's going to be things going wrong, like these wars, like resistance from fossil fuels. Even with things go 60% right, we still might be okay, because there's a lot of momentum, there's a lot of technological power, there's a lot of human will to do the right thing, to make a decent world for the younger generations. So I think we're just in a horrible moment of struggle. It's a wicked battle. It won't end. Not in your whole lifetimes, this battle won't end. It'll be the story of your entire life. And for me, it'll be, I'll be gone long before it's over. But when it's defined, when you understand the stakes, when you understand what needs to be done, that's a big step on the way. So this is something that comes out of my teacher, Frederick Jameson, cognitive maps. This book is a cognitive map. You get the map, you suddenly see where you need to go. And if you don't have the map, you don't know where to go. So I think it's served that purpose.
Thank you very much for all this answer, and I hope that we'll enjoy the festival.